Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition to The Point. Hope you're all doing well on this Thursday. NBA draft is this evening. Looking forward to watching that and all the drama that comes with it. The NBA is always full of storylines, full of trades. We've already seen a couple. Going to talk about one later on in the show. We'll get into the draft and everything that is coming with it. Going to chat about a little bit about Major League Baseball. The Blue Jays have a strength. They've won 2 in a row. I'm not talking about their home run ability or Vladdy Guerrero Jr., but I look at their team. I think they have a strength that people aren't really seeing right now that will be beneficial down the stretch. So we'll talk about that. Going to talk about Conor Hellebuyck and the best trade destinations for him, what teams should be looking for and what teams should not be in the Conor Hellebuyck business as the Winnipeg Jets prepare to offload every part of their team seemingly this offseason. So we'll talk about that. But we're starting today with the Hockey Hall of Fame, or the Hockey Hall of Lame, as I titled the program today. I value Hall of Fames. I think they're important, and I think people that get into them should be deserving of that announcement. It's important to me because as a sports historian, as a person that loves sports, that's put his life into them, it's the most important aspect of my being. I value them, and I value them more than the average person, which is fine. People don't have to care, but I do. Now, to me, the Hall of Fame has always been this intertwined mess where it's what defines a Hall of Famer. How would you describe a Hall of Famer? Who goes in, who doesn't? And it can be complicated. But to me, it's a very simple principle. When you think about a Hall of Fame in any sport, you only got to say this one question. Pardon me, it's not even a question. You only have to say one phrase to figure out if a person is a Hall of Famer. And it's this. Say their name and then put, are they a Hall of Famer? And you pause. And right away, it's yes or it's no. If there is a pause, if you have to wait 5 seconds, if you have to go, I don't know, I have to think about it, then they're not. To me, that is the simple principle that I go by when I think of Hall of Fames. And it eliminates the need to think about numbers. It eliminates the need to think about history. Because when you ask that question and you give the yes or no quickly, you're actually putting all of it in because I say Scott Niedermayer, yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Then you can think, well, yeah, he's won 4 Stanley Cups. He's won a couple Norris trophies. Was the best defenseman of his generation. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. NFL. Tom Brady, a Hall of Famer. Yes, easy answer. Is Larry Fitzgerald a Hall of Famer? Not in there yet, but is he going to be? Yes. Terrell Owens? Yes. But then you get to certain names and you think, well, are they a Hall of Famer? Like, for instance, when Eli Manning comes up to be eligible to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he will be inducted. Do I believe Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer? I don't. He had 3 years where he led the NFL in interceptions. Of any quarterback, 32 starting quarterbacks, injuries, he led them 3 times, Eli Manning. But then you go, he's won 2 Super Bowls. He's beaten Tom Brady twice in Super Bowls. I still say no. Because Phillip Rivers has better numbers, more passes, more completed passes, more touchdowns, more passing yards than Eli Manning, but he doesn't have the Super Bowl. So where does it come together? To me, it's simple. Are you a Hall of Famer? Yes or no? And something that Major League Baseball does, and it's odd that Major League Baseball does anything correct because they are behind everybody when it comes to relevancy and people caring about their sport. There are years where Major League Baseball doesn't have any inductees. And for me personally, I don't think that's a bad thing. Because it's not the hall of the very good. It's not the hall of okay. It's the hall of fucking fame. And you need to be worthy of going into it. Martin St. Louis was a great player. He won a Stanley Cup. He won a Hart Trophy. I don't believe he's a Hall of Famer. If Martin St. Louis, which he currently is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, that means Corey Perry has to go in. Because Corey Perry was as good a player as Martin St. Louis for the same amount of time. Corey Perry won a Stanley Cup. Corey Perry won a Hart Trophy. Remember that? Way back when? Corey Perry, before he turned into the Worm? A lot of people you'd ask today, Corey Perry's not a Hall of Famer. Well, he did similar things, same accomplishments. Been to more Stanley Cup finals than Marty St. Louis. So that's where it gets complicated. Somebody can be on a ballot. Corey Crawford was eligible yesterday. Corey Crawford's not a Hall of Famer. If he ever goes in the Hall of Fame, they should just eliminate it because he's not a Hall of Famer. No offense, Corey. But yesterday, they announced the Hall of Fame class. We'll start at the top. King Henrik. I said yesterday, he was obviously going in. He was the best player available. And when it's your year to be inducted and you're the best player, you go in. Is Henrik Lundqvist a Hall of Famer? Probably, yes. I will, if I do my quiz, Henrik Lundqvist, Hall of Famer. Yes. Yes, he is. He is. Had a great career. Owned New York, the king. One of the best looking men on the planet. Still. Great dress. Fantastic goalie. Never caused a fuss. Just a really decent person. He's a Swedish guy. And he played for the Rangers for 15 years. And he went to a Stanley Cup final, and he's in top 10 in wins, and you go through it. He had a great career. First ballot? I don't know. I have no problem with King Henrik, because it's obvious. The rest of this class. Boy, was I wrong when I made my predictions yesterday. Here's what I predict. I wanted to write it down, but I would have forgot. So I had King Henrik. I had Alexander McGinley. Caroline Ouellette, Walt, a.k.a. Keith Tkachuk, and good old JR, Jeremy Roenick. That was my prediction. I got 2 right. Forgot about the builder category, which I'll get to. Number 2 on the list, Mike Vernon. 19 years in the National Hockey League. 2 Stanley Cups. You might remember this one back with the Calgary Flames. Second last time a Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup. Or no, the Edmonton Oilers won in 90. Pardon me. Third last time. 1989, Lanny McDonald. Remember that year? He also won a cup with the Red Wings in 1997. Mike Vernon, good goaltender. No doubt about it. Really good career. 19 years playing in a league is hard to do. No doubt about it. Is he a Hall of Famer? When I think of goalies, I think wins are an important stat, right? To me, they are anyway. And for Mike Vernon, he's 16th, which is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Jonathan Quick is 17th, about 30 wins behind him. Is Jonathan Quick going to be a Hall of Famer? Pecorine is 20th. Pecorine going to be a Hall of Famer? Bobrovsky, is he going to go into the Hall of Fame? Carey Price? Mike Vernon's got 16 wins, 2 cups. Great career. But here's the deal. He goes in, and Tom Barrasso goes in, another goalie who is 21st all-time in wins. So behind behind Pecorine. Don't mean to put down Pecorine, but I mean, he's a two-time Stanley Cup champion, Barrasso, with the great Penguins teams who defeated the North Stars and defeated the Blackhawks in the best of sevens. You might remember those teams were pretty good. Pretty good. They had a guy named Mario Lemieux, had my favorite player named Jaromir Jagr, remember him? Ron Francis, Hockey Hall of Famer. They had a pretty good team. But do you get punished for being on a good team? I don't know. But Barrasso and Vernon go in. I would say Vernon definitely has a better case. I value his Stanley Cup wins more than I do Barrasso's because I believe winning a Stanley Cup on a really good team it's still a chip, but it doesn't mean you're going to be looked at fondly. I mean, is anybody going to remember Aiden Hill in 10 years? See, the biggest reason the Vegas Golden Knights won a Stanley Cup was Braden Holtby. The biggest reason the Washington Cap, Braden Holtby, going to be in the Hall of Fame? Chris Osgood's not in the Hall of Fame yet. And he has more wins. He's got 3 Stanley Cups. With Vernon, won it the next year, and then he won in 2008. Great goalies, great careers, but are they Hall of Famers? When I look at Curtis Joseph, who's 7th all-time in wins but doesn't have the Cups. I mean, this is going to sound harsh, but can we Is Curtis Joseph being hindered because he played for the Toronto Maple Leafs? For once, somebody's being hindered because he was on a Leaf team that couldn't win, because that's what the Leafs do. No offense. He was on Oilers teams that weren't all that good. He was on St. Louis in the early 90s. I mean, .915 save percentage in Toronto back-to-back years, .249, .239, then a .906 with a .223. 68 starts, 63 starts, 61 in Detroit, 60 in 2005-06 with the dog-awful Phoenix Coyotes. Finishes in Toronto with horrible numbers because they like to bring back old guys back then. And Curtis Cujo had a pretty damn good career. He has more wins. Why do these guys go in first? And if the argument is, well, they were waiting longer, I hate that argument. If you're not a Hall of Famer, then you're not a Hall of Famer. You'll wait till the end of time. I wouldn't have put Vernon, Barrasso, or Cujo in before I put Alexander McGinley in. To me, Alexander McGinley is a Hall of Famer. I remember watching him as a kid, and I said, this guy is incredible. When I was a Leaf fan back in the day, when I watched the Buffalo Sabres, when he played for them and the rivalry, the Leafs and Sabres used to have a rivalry when you could have animosity in sports. No offense. He was fun to watch. He was so creative when he had the puck. His best year was with Buffalo in 92-93. He had 127 points in 77 games, 76 goals. Had 107 points with the Canucks. He had 200-point seasons. Had a great World Junior career, over 40 points. Won a Lady Byng in 2002, 2003. He's a hell of a talent. Was a really fun player to watch. And he's been eligible forever, so I don't think it's the Russia thing that you can't induct somebody from Russia. Because that is a thing going on right now. Matvei Michkov in the draft, he's coming over. People are saying, is he going to be drafted high because he's from Russia? We don't, again, completely unfair to the kid, completely unfair to anybody, because who knows where they stand on the war. How about ask them a fucking question? Hard to do, I know. But Alexander McGinley played a long time. Like a lot of these guys that go in, they have long careers. Some years are leaner than others, certainly. But Vernon, Barrasso, Cujo, McGinley is above all of them. He doesn't go in again. Barrasso, Vernon, Cujo, Keith Tkachuk is in before them, in my opinion. Pierre Turgeon also went in. Again, Walt goes in before them, and McGinley. To me, they just had more impact on the sport. You remember what they did more. When somebody just says, well, what do you think about Mike Vernon? He was a good goalie. Yeah, he was. But that doesn't mean every good player doesn't go into the Hall of Fame. And I think that's we're seeing that more and more. In sports, just, well, let's throw him in. Let's make sure he gets in there. You know, he's been on the ballot a long time, or he played in the league. This is going to be the Patrick Marleau argument. Marleau will be a Hall of Famer. I'm not sure he's worthy of being it. Okay, he played a long-ass time. Great guy, San Jose. Cup of coffee in Toronto. You know, Pittsburgh, cup of coffee. Was he ever regarded as a top 5, top 10 player in the league ever during his time? No. And if he was, give me the year. And I'll go look it up. But I don't think he ever was. He was a high draft pick, had a really good career. But is Taylor Hall going to be a Hall of Famer? I don't view Taylor Hall, Patrick Marleau, similar. Again, parts of good teams, but never the centerpiece that got you over the top. Thornton was always better than Marleau. Pavelski came in, he was better than Marleau. I think Joe Pavelski has a much better case of being a Hall of Famer. I think Joe Pavelski is a Hall of Famer over Patrick Marleau, quite frankly. Pavelski's career has been more impressive. He's done more, and he's one of the best American-born players of his generation. Caroline Ouellette, easy. I thought she'd go in, should go in. Was a huge impact on women's hockey. Was captain, I believe, for Team Canada with the women's. I'm certain of that. Scored some big goals, won gold medals, won world championships. I'm cool with that. The builder category, Ken Hitchcock. Won a Stanley Cup in Dallas. Coached for a long time. Had some success. I'm okay with Ken Hitchcock. I think he did it. I think he was a good coach. I think he had impact on some great players. Certainly. And his teams were always competitive. And when he got a new job, there was always that spark, and the teams got better when he became the head coach. And I'm just going to look up all-time NHL coaching wins. Because I think he's certainly in the top 5, if I remember correctly. He's 4th, yeah. So I thought he was. He coached nearly 1,600 games. He's got 849 wins. Lindy Ruff is 5th. He'll pass Ken Hitchcock next year, though he's coached a little over 100 more games, 140 games. Then you got Paul Maurice. Peter Laviolette is chasing Al Arbor, who's in 7th. You got John Tortorella, who is right there. Mike Babcock has 700. He's 12th. It's a tough business. Scotty Bowman still is leaps and bounds above everybody else. 1,244 wins. He coached almost 2,200 games, which is incredible. 1,244 wins, 573 losses. What a fucking career. Hitchcock went 849 and 534 and 88 ties. Pretty damn good career too. I think this guy's gonna. This is somewhat off topic, but I'm on the list here. Joel Quenneville's number 2. He's got 969 wins. I think he's going to coach in the NHL again. Apparently, him and Scotty Bowman are meeting with Gary Bettman after the draft or something. Why it took this long, I don't know. He's going to coach again. He's one of the best coaches in the history of the league, in my personal opinion. 969 and 572. I think he'll want to get to 1,000 wins, and I think a team will look at him and say, okay, you've had some problems. Where will he go in the Hall of Fame? Won a lot of cups with Chicago, but will he be truly appreciated? Will the stigma haunt him a little bit? I don't know. Be interesting to see when he's eligible, because to me he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. To me, it's becoming more and more of let's just let everybody in. If you criticize it, you're an asshole. I'll gladly be an asshole. You don't see that a lot in the media. It's just great this person is in. I can't wrap my head around Vernon Barrasso, but then no Cujo, but also these two and Pierre Turgeon go in and Alexander McGinley does not. I saw some arguments for Rob Brendamore. To me, Rob Brendamore's not a Hall of Famer. Good player. Won a Stanley Cup in Carolina. Real good coach. Maybe at the end of his coaching career, you'll combine the coaching career and the player, and that'll put him in. But to me, he's not in that category. He's a great guy. He's well-liked. He's in great shape. We know Rod the Bod, this, that. But that being nice doesn't make you a Hall of Famer. There's some assholes in every Hall of Fame. Lawrence Taylor was a dick. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because he's the best, you could argue, the best player to ever play football. And he was nice to nobody. He treated the media like shit. He treated the people he played against like shit, but he was effective. And he dominated, and he made every lineman's life a living hell. And he's in there because he's worthy of being in there. Bill Belichick, whenever he retires, is going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's been an asshole for 40 years. Coaching, giving non-answers, but he's going to be in there. So it's not, okay, let's give all the people that are seemingly nice into this room together. That's not how life works. Most business people are assholes, but guess what? They're rich and they know how to do business and they make it work. Most people, there's great stories in pro sports. Wyndham Clark wins the US Open. His mother died from breast cancer. It's a great story. But there's also that dick who's like Brooks Koepka, who's just going to win majors because he can hit a golf ball really well and because he's really good at it. And he's one of the best golfers ever. There are good guys and there are bad people that succeed in everything. And I just think, to me, JR is not in the Hockey Hall of Fame because of this. Keith Tkachuk wasn't all that nice when he played. I think that he's being hindered for that. McGinley, I don't know. He's been eligible for seemingly 9 years, and he's still not in. Pretty damn good Russian hockey player that came over, that wave of guys that came over and played pretty damn well. Okay, he wasn't Sergei Fedorov, he wasn't Alex Ovechkin. But hey, there's a lot of Canadian players in the Hockey Hall of Fame that shouldn't be there. Just saying. Just putting it out there. Might sound harsh, but it could also just be the truth. Always a possibility. Who knows? Who knows? But that's my thoughts on the Hockey Hall of Fame, or Hockey Hall of Fame, is you put people in that have worse statistical numbers and that aren't, to me, just, you go through my test. Are you a Hall of Famer? Yes. No. You move on. It's that simple. Ichiro, Hall of Famer? Yes. Because he had that impact and he's one of the best players in the game for an extended period of time. Mike Trout, Hall of Famer? Yes. Yes, because he was the best player in the league for like a decade. Until his teammate came in and said, you know what, I'm going to be better than you. Move over. I should be put on these committees, but again, I guess I only have nice people in the room, so I'll probably be booted. Some news here. The IIHF World Junior Championship is coming to the nation's capital in 2025. Hockey Canada announced on Thursday. Next year's annual tournament will take place in Ottawa for the first time since 2009, when Canada captured their fourth straight gold medal with a win over Sweden in the final. Now, I'm wondering with this, I assume they'll be playing games at I assume they're having the games at the Ottawa, where the Ottawa Senators play. I think it's, Canadian Tire, something like that. Might be Canadian Tire. I think it's Canadian Tire. Anyway, in Canada, that's where I assume this is going to take place. But I'm wondering, are they going to have it there, or are they going to have the event in where the Ottawa 67s play? Because I think the junior environment was really great. I think the junior environment was really fun in Halifax. I think they liked it a lot. I think it's a mistake for the World Juniors to go back into big rinks myself. Stay in junior rinks. The atmosphere is better. I think people enjoy them more. Maybe you want to sell tickets, I get it, but it was jammed in Halifax. Moncton did well selling tickets, and I'm not just saying come to the Maritimes, because you can't do that every year. But it's just, I hope that's where they go with this, because I love the tournament. I enjoy it every year. Ottawa is a great city. Ottawa's a really fun city. But if you're having it in an NHL rink, in particular in Ottawa, I worry about selling tickets. Because it's a bitch to get there and to get people to and from. So we'll see. But the World Juniors 2025 will be in the nation's capital in Ottawa. So we'll see. But that's some news that just comes across the ticker, so I'll give that to you right now. World Juniors in Ottawa 2025. A name we talked about yesterday briefly on the program is Conor Hellebuyck, the current, I almost said former, the current goaltender of the Winnipeg Jets, a name that has been circulating for the last little while in trade rumors and speculation, rumor innuendo, on where Conor Hellebuyck could go this offseason. He has 1 year remaining on his contract starting July 1st, and then he'll be eligible to sign an extension. And in all likelihood, he won't be doing that in Winnipeg. For Conor Hellebuyck, I think it makes a lot of sense to get traded somewhere and then sign an extension. And I think any team that is looking into acquiring him will be doing their due diligence. So I've come up with some teams that I think should be looking at Conor Hellebuyck and teams that shouldn't. Teams that should and teams that shouldn't be looking at the goaltender. And I got a yes and no column here. So we'll start with yes, then I'll pivot to no. You guys understand. Team number one that makes the most sense, the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils, the biggest reason they did not go farther in the postseason last year were twofold. They weren't big enough, and their goaltending was subpar. Vitek, Vanacek, Mackenzie Blackwood, their trio that they had in New Jersey was just not good enough. They didn't have a goaltender that was a true number one, and they had a defense core that was good, not great, and it showed. Carolina wore that team down. Carolina decimated them in 5 games. And to me, the New Jersey Devils are going all in here. They re-signed Jesper Bratt to $7.8 million. You could argue as an overpay. He is a good player. I wouldn't have given him that much money or that much term, but that's not me doing business. You got Nico Hischier locked up. Jack Hughes is locked up long term. You got Siegenthaler back there. Luke Hughes is coming. Will be playing full-time next year. The New Jersey Devils are a good team. They need to get bigger. They need to get stronger, but they also need a better goaltender. The best goalie available is Conor Hellebuyck. And to me, the Devils, you're trying to win. You got a team that can win. Let's go get the best goalie available. Let's trade away draft picks, whatever compensation we have to give up for Conor Hellebuyck. Let's do it and try to win. Also, I think Winnipeg, they have leverage, but not that much leverage. They need to trade Conor Hellebuyck because they want to blow it up. They don't want to re-sign him. I don't think they want him on the team going into training camp. And teams are aware of that. So teams can look at them and say, hey, we want your asset. You don't want him anymore. Yeah, we'll give up something. But we're not giving you everything for a goalie that you'll lose for nothing a year from today, which would be July 1st. The Devils would make sense because they need him, and also they could throw some draft capital. Draft's Wednesday, so you have a couple days to make this trade happen if Winnipeg wants draft picks, which isn't a bad play for them because they could always use some more talent to pump through. They can rely on guys like David Gustafsson and Brad Lambert, Niemela, who are going to come through their organization. But again, add more draft capital, get more prospects pumping through your team, and see what you can do from the New Jersey Devils on that front. But New Jersey, to me, is team number one that makes the most sense because they're trying to win. They would have the money to re-sign him. They also have to re-sign Timo Meier this summer. He's an RFA. So they need to work out an extension with him. They could re-sign, and they'd have the nucleus of their team for the next 5 years, all under contract. Will it be good enough to win? I don't know, but I think New Jersey, who was a team forever that was never in the winning business, never gave themselves an opportunity to win because they were never in this position. I think they want to give themselves that chance. We have a great team already. Let's get the best goalie available. We might have to overpay him a little bit to stay here, but let's see if we can win. Because New Jersey Devils, for a long time, they were the team, small market, nobody's heard of New Jersey. We're going to Newark to play hockey. This makes no sense. But guess what? We have Marty Brodeur. We have the best goalie in the world. We got a team that plays a system. We got system play. Lindy Ruff is a good coach who's still coaching hard at this stage of his career. Let's go see if we can win a Stanley Cup. To me, New Jersey is in that mode. New York Rangers are in flux. The Penguins are old. We've been through this. Washington, transition. Columbus, what the hell are they doing? Philly, tanking. The Metropolitan Division has never been easier. Carolina will still be there. You need to get by Carolina. You couldn't get by them this season. But it's there to be had if you can put a great team. You have more scoring than Carolina. You should be able to beat them, maybe with a better goalie and some more reinforcements. You'll be able to do it. Wait to see on that, but New Jersey totally makes the most sense. And I don't like paying goalies $9+ million, but if I'm New Jersey and if I'm Tom Fitzgerald and I'm building a team that I believe can win, I will do it. Because the name of the game is trying to win a Stanley Cup. Period. End of story. I'll now go to no. This is going to seem really simple when this team comes up, but it's not for a couple reasons. No, Toronto. For everybody out there, of course, Toronto's not going to trade for him. Well, they wouldn't consider it. Toronto's had the core four, Morgan Rielly, for a long time. Something Toronto's never had since, you could argue, Cujo. Since we were talking about him earlier in the program, yeah, he was playing there. Maybe at Belfour, but Cujo is in there as well. Anyway, you know what I mean. They haven't had a true stud goaltender in a very long time. They were hoping Justin Pogge was going to be that guy. Didn't work out. They were hoping Tuukka Rask was going to be that guy. Turned out to be that guy, but they traded him. Haha. They haven't had a number one. We get Samsonov. We get this guy. We throw Freddie Anderson. We got patchwork goaltenders. Joseph Woll, by all accounts, is a great goalie. Looked good in the playoffs. He's our next big thing. Okay, but he's a kid. He's a kid that played well in the playoffs. That doesn't mean he's going to play well next season. We've seen these guys that get a glimpse in the playoffs. You have a great run. The next year, you're a fucking disaster. Think of Cole Caulfield. The year after he played in the playoffs in the bubble, that next year he got sent back to Laval, if you remember that. True story. So this happens. It's not right away. Okay, you just automatic success. You work for 2 weeks. It's going to work for 6 months. Doesn't always work that way. If William Nylander can't sign an extension, would you trade him for Conor Hellebuyck with a package? You get Conor Hellebuyck, see if you can re-sign him. If you can't, you got him for 1 year. If you're going to lose Nylander, just think of this. If Nylander can't come to an extension, they can't come to terms. If he wants $10 million and they want to give him 8.25, just bear with me. They say, well, he's not going to re-sign. We're going to lose him for nothing. Why don't we trade him to Winnipeg for Conor Hellebuyck? I bet Winnipeg could get something else in that deal. Then they could flip Nylander for more stuff. Not the worst position. You get a 40-goal scorer, you can keep him, try to re-sign him, or trade him elsewhere, sign and trade, and get a big package coming back. A hockey deal. I don't think Toronto should do it. Because I think for them, they need to upgrade their defense. And with their defense, even with the best goalie in the world, it's hard to win when your defense is lackluster. Look at Tampa last year. It's the biggest weakness on their team. It's the biggest reason they lost to Toronto. They didn't have the depth that they have in the past. So what does Toronto do? They probably want to re-sign Ilya Samsonov. I look at their situation. It makes sense to look at adding Conor Hellebuyck, but I would not do it. But to scoff at it is incorrect. Because I think Brad Treliving will be looking at this situation. Because when you come into a business, and it's a business that you could say, the business end of the Toronto Maple Leafs when it comes to selling tickets, how many hot dogs you sell, pints, those are all good businesses. But when the business of hockey The business has been adequate. It's been mediocrity. You are not at the top of the food chain. You are not one of the best in the business because, okay, you make the playoffs every year. Okay, we break even. Just to put a business term on it. We break even every year. But guess what? If you break even every year, it means you're not making any fucking money. You're just the same every year and you're working hard and you're trying to find your way, but you don't do any better than that. So if the person that was breaking even gets fired and you bring in somebody new that says, okay, our business is breaking even every year, make us some money. And he goes, I think we should do this. Let's do this same thing the other guy did. You'd be fucking crazy to hire that person. So if Brad Treliving looks at the situation and goes, you know what? I can improve this team. Something we've never done is have an elite goaltender. I don't think the Leafs will do it. I don't think they'll do it because they don't want to take on a guy for 1 year and not be able to re-sign him because they got so many other contracts worth so much more money on their roster. But I wouldn't rule it out. That's all I'm saying. Back to the yes column. And these are teams that make sense for Conor Hellebuyck. Alex DeBrincat currently plays for the Ottawa Senators. Got a little ahead of myself there, but getting excited. The Ottawa Senators make sense for Conor Hellebuyck. The Ottawa Senators have been even worse than the Toronto Maple Leafs at finding goaltending. They get rid of a goalie, Phil Gustafsson. He's a rock star in Minnesota. We trade for Cam Talbot, who was good. He's garbage down here. We got Anton Forsberg, who's a clear number 2. We want him to be a number 1. Okay, he can't be a number 1. So you're stuck in the mud. You can't find a goalie to save your life. Well, how about you quit the business of banking on somebody to be good, banking on Matt Murray to quit being injury prone and quit being a crybaby like they signed him from Pittsburgh. We know Conor Hellebuyck is one of the best goaltenders on the planet, period. He's proven that year over year over year. And we realize that Ottawa is not a great destination. We got a shitty rink. Our fan base is meh, to say the least. But we got a good young team here. We got Timmy Stützle. We got Brady Tkachuk. We got Drake Batherson. We got Thomas Chabot. We got Jacob Chychrun. We got nothing but promise here, Conor Hellebuyck. And we want to win. And the Bruins are getting older. And Tampa's getting a little older because they've been through those wars. Toronto, who the hell fuck knows what's going on there? They won't trade for Conor. We'll trade for him. Let's figure this out. We got this piece named Alex DeBrincat, who, contrary to popular belief, does not have a no trade, doesn't have anything. He might want out of Ottawa, but that doesn't mean you have to get him out of Ottawa, but he's also an asset. Senators are currently scheduled to take him to arbitration, but let's just play this game. It's the same thing as William Nylander. You could get a winger, 40-goal scorer, on your team. Add Alex DeBrincat. Do I think he wants to re-sign in Winnipeg? No. Nobody does. It's cold as hell. Nobody likes playing in Winnipeg. But if you offer him enough money, maybe he'd stay. Or he's another trade chip that you can use down the line for the Ottawa Senators. He's not coming back to your team. He doesn't want to play there for whatever reason. Whether it's the coach, whether it's the city, whether it's the whatever. His view from his apartment, whatever it is. He doesn't want to go back to Ottawa. So it's an asset that's not really an asset. Because he's not coming back. It's an expiring deal that you have no chance of re-signing. So you look at it. Well, he's a winger that can score goals, but we have a few of them. We score a goal. That's not our problem. We can't keep the puck out of our net. We like Thomas Chabot. We think Jake Chychrun, if he can stay healthy consistently, can be a top 4 defenseman easy on this team. We got Artem Zub locked up. We like him. We need to add some more depth on the back end. Some guys that can play minutes. What if Conor Hellebuyck goes to the Ottawa Senators, Alex DeBrincat goes back, and you make it a bigger trade? Make it before the draft. Winnipeg gets Ottawa's first-round pick. And Dylan DeMello comes back to the Ottawa Senators in the trade. Dylan DeMello would fit perfect with the Ottawa Senators. He's a depth defenseman, if you're not familiar with him, who logs decent minutes, 5-6 minutes. He doesn't get any points, but he's fundamentally sound defensively. Something Ottawa needs very badly. Just somebody simple that doesn't do anything too fancy and just plays the game the right way. What if there's a bigger trade? Ottawa could use a splash, and by the way, they're going to have a new owner. This wouldn't be the new owner making this trade, because new owners look at Matt Ishbia down in Phoenix. They love a big trade. New owneritis. They want to make the other owners look at them and say, "Hey, I'm part of the clan. I'm here. I'm the new man on campus. I'm going to make things happen. I'm moving and shaking. We're doing things here in Phoenix. Arizona is the place to be, let me tell you." Well, that could be. And maybe the new owner looks at it and goes, Pierre Dorion, he's not afraid to take a swing. He got Jacob Chychrun at the trade deadline last year. He's got Conor Hellebuyck. He re-signed. He's one of the best goalies in the world. We got something going here in Ottawa. I might have to keep him around. Job preservation is part of the business. It's part of life. Can you stay employed by doing certain things that you think your new owner would like? Conor Hellebuyck makes sense in Ottawa. They'd have the assets to trade to the Winnipeg Jets. Does Conor Hellebuyck, an American, want to play in another Canadian city? That's the only thing that comes into play. But here's the deal. If Conor Hellebuyck truly wants to win anywhere, can the Ottawa Senators sell to him? Come win here. We got a team that can do it. You're just the missing piece. Pivoting back to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Always comes back to my buddy Kyle Dubas. Pittsburgh is without a starting goalie. Tristan Jarry is going to be an unrestricted free agent, and I do not expect the Pittsburgh Penguins to re-sign him. He had a horrible year last year. He was tied to the previous regime. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins will go in a different direction. Do they have the assets? They got first-round picks the next couple drafts. They got old players. They could probably make the deal happen. I think Sidney Crosby would be happy with it to have a goalie that he believed would give him a good opportunity to win. But I wouldn't do it. I don't want to add another huge contract to my books. I don't want another guy signed long-term, because this team is like a crater. It's going down, way down. So you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of your surroundings and not add more problems to this already problematic roster. Pittsburgh, they'll add another goalie. They could look at Phil Gustafsson in Minnesota. Oddly enough, they had him too. It would make sense. Maybe you can learn about Minnesota. Minnesota might, if you or RFA, you give them an offer. Minnesota might not be able to match because they have no cap space. And they gave Marc-Andre Fleury a 2-year deal. So everybody has to give Marc-Andre Fleury a 2-year deal. My God. You could look at Samsonov. Kyle Dubas just had him in Toronto. Did you really like him? Did you like him that year together? You could bring him back. Freddie Anderson's an unrestricted free agent in Carolina. I doubt that's the fit with Kyle Dubas and Freddie, but who knows? There are goalies around the league. I just don't think Hellebuyck is the right ad for this team. He's a great goalie, but it would add more problems to a problematic team, and you're not winning with that team. It's a problem. Semyon Varlamov would make more sense. Tristan Jarry is a UFA. I don't think they bring him back. Cam Talbot, Laurent Brossoit, Mackenzie Blackwood, Aiden Hill as a UFA. That actually makes some sense. Antti Ranta, Samsonov's an RFA, Martin Jones, Korpisalo. That would make some sense in Pittsburgh. So there are more goaltenders that make sense than Conor Hellebuyck, is my point here. And maybe there's another trade that makes sense out there that could bring you in a goaltender. My final yes team. I have 3 yes teams for Conor Hellebuyck that make sense and 3 no's. Final yes. The Los Angeles Kings. The Los Angeles Kings are in an interesting position right now. They are moving out cap space. They are moving pieces out. They re-signed Vladislav Gavrikov. They don't have a goalie signed for next season other than Phoenix Copley, who was in the American League to start last year. Kopitar has 1 year left on his contract, and yet they've been a first-round playoff exit the last 2 years. Patchwork goaltending, Quick's no longer there. We could see him retire. Do they want to bring back Korpisalo? Always a possibility. He played well in his time in Los Angeles. Do they want to make a bigger move? We had stability for a long time. We had Jonathan Quick. He very well may be a Hall of Famer when his career is over. He's won 3 Stanley Cups now. Korpisalo is a good goaltender, not a great goaltender. Phoenix Copley is a 2. He'd be a great 2 behind a strong number 1. Do we have enough pieces to send to the Winnipeg Jets to get Conor Hellebuyck? I think Conor Hellebuyck would sign and trade would be so easy to negotiate because I think he would go to Los Angeles in a New York minute. I think he's an American. I think he'd love Los Angeles. I think he'd sign up for it. He gets to compete for a title right away. And the Winnipeg Jets can look at their situation. He doesn't stay in division. So that's a pro for them. And they can look at the LA Kings prospects. Do they want Quinton Byfield, who's 20-year-old? He's a 20-year-old center. Gabriel Velarde, who had a breakout year last year. Rasmus Kupari, Jordan Spence, who's a 22-year-old defenseman who's always played in the American League. Maybe he could get some time with Winnipeg as they go through a transition. Samuel Fagemo is 23. Brant Clark. That'd be a starting point for me. I'd want Brant. I think Brant Clark's a stud. I think he's a really good hockey player. I'd want him. Really fun prospect, Brant Clark. Be his first year in the American League next year, but he's fun. They also got Kasper Simon Taival, who's fun, who's a good player from Finland. The Kings got some decent prospects. They got some decent prospects. So there's some ways for it to make sense. You can get some prospects. You could get a player to come in your roster right away in the deal. If you want it, Byfield to be an NHL player right away. You could play him at center ice. You're likely going to lose Mark Scheifele. You might lose Pierre-Luc Dubois. Get some center ice depth to build for the future. And develop Byfield into being the player that the Kings saw him being when they took him second overall. So to me, LA makes sense. Because they can make the cap room work. They got 1 year left with Kopitar. They're building for something. And I still think it puts them in a position that I doubt this is becoming less and less of a possibility. But if Austin Matthews becomes available, you're still in a good position that you could sign him as a UFA in July 2024. And again, I'm going to repeat for Leaf fans, I don't think that's going to happen, but he hasn't signed in Toronto yet, so it's always a possibility. It doesn't close off that possibility for you to do it. So to me, New Jersey, Ottawa, and Los Angeles make the most sense. Ottawa is the toughest sell because it's another Canadian team for an American-born player. And we've seen it all the time. Gaudreau left, Kachuk left, these Americans. Hellebuyck is likely going to leave Winnipeg. There's something about that's playing in Canada that isn't all that appealing to these Americans. It's not just a narrative. It's truth. It's happening more and more. So something to ponder there. But again, money talks. If you're getting paid in American money and you're playing in Ottawa, then it really doesn't matter. And if you think you have a chance to win, maybe you suck it up and say, you know what? I'll play here. Because they got a really good young core, and I think I can be the piece that pushed them over the edge. But I would go in that list, I would say Devils, LA, Ottawa. But I don't rule out the Senators because they can be creative and they can find ways to make it happen. But I would argue that the Devils trading Timo Meier and Ottawa, the Chychrun deal, and a few other moves they made, LA has the best prospects of those three teams for a possible trade. They may just want Korpisalo back, which makes their life really, really easy. But is he good enough to win you a Stanley Cup with the team you have currently? I have my doubts. But we'll see how teams approach this summer. It's a fun season. Pondering things, what's going to happen, what moves make sense for different teams. Is Ryan O'Reilly going to go back to the Toronto Maple Leafs? I don't see how that makes sense, but they might make it happen. Where's Dmitry Orlov going to go in free agency? Is there going to be a trade before the draft next Wednesday? Is a team going to look to move up? Does Ivan Barbashev stay in Vegas? Can they make it work? So I think a lot of teams are going to want his services. Where is Matvei Michkov going to be drafted? Bob McKenzie has him 5th in his rankings. They're saying he could drop. Montreal has the 5th pick, may not take him. I hope they don't. Because if that's to me, it's just stupidity. But we'll talk more about him next week as we get closer to the draft. Because, to me, it's just missing out on that player just makes no sense. But that's just me. Also news, Eric Johnson, who was first overall pick way back when. He was drafted by St. Louis, then moved to Colorado. He was told that today that his stay with the Colorado Avalanche is coming to an end. Here's a report. According to multiple reports, the veteran defenseman will hit the open market on July 1st, with the Avalanche unlikely to bring him back. Johnson is the longest-serving member of the Avalanche, having joined the team via trade ahead of the trade deadline in 2011 from the St. Louis Blues. He had 8 assists in 63 games with the Avalanche this season, adding 1 goal in 7 playoff games. He spent the season playing out the last year of a 7-year, $42 million contract with carriage cap hit of $6 million. 35 was obviously on the team that won a Stanley Cup. Was important to that cup run, but again, he's getting a little bit older. Colorado is still in the mix of still in the Stanley Cup window. I believe they're the betting favorite currently on FanDuel to win the Stanley Cup next year, with the Leafs and Oilers 2-3. LOL. But Eric Johnson will be joining a new team after 13 years in Colorado, which is interesting. Not a big name, not somebody that will get a lot of money in free agency, but I still think he has a place. I still think teams will look to get him at a cheap number. I think you can get him for under $2 million to come to your team. I think he'll be looking to play for a contender. So we'll see what happens with Eric Johnson in free agency. But lots of NHL rumors going on, lots of things to discuss. But the NBA draft is tonight. And with the draft comes speculation of trades, things happening. But the last couple of days, there's been trades, and they're not connected to the draft whatsoever. We saw Bradley Beal get traded to the Phoenix Suns. No first-round picks included in the deal because the Phoenix Suns did not have any. And then we hear yesterday that Kristaps Porzingis is going to the Boston Celtics. Malcolm Brogdon will be a member of the Los Angeles Clippers. And Wizards are getting draft capital, Marcus Morris, Danilo Gallinari, and other things. Well, no. Not yet. Not yet, anyway. That was ready to happen. Trade's going to go through. And then, no, sorry, not happening. The Clippers are worried about Brogdon's health, his injury history, because they love to acquire injury-riddled talent. So they're finally saying, okay, we got to stop doing this. And they decide to pull out of the deal. So the deal is dead. I go to bed. I wake up this morning. We have a trade, a new deal. The Boston Celtics are finalizing a deal to acquire Kristaps Porzingis from the Washington Wizards, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. As part of a 3-team deal with the Memphis Grizzlies, Boston will send guard Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies, while Memphis will send guard Tyus Jones to the Wizards. Additionally, the Wizards will acquire forward Danilo Gallinari and center Mike Muscala from the Celtics. The Grizzlies are also sending 2023 number 25 pick and 2024 via Golden State Warriors first-round picks to the Celtics, and the Wizards will receive the 35 pick in the 2023 draft from Boston. So, the Washington Wizards have traded their two best players over the last 4 days, and they get they get a bunch of second-round picks. They don't get a first-round pick in the deals. They're in full rebuild mode, but they're not getting draft capital. That's an interesting strategy. You get Danilo Gallinari, who opted in. You get Mike Muscala, who they traded for at the trade deadline. But you get Porzingis off your books. He will opt in to play for the Celtics. It's interesting. Starting with the Celtics' point of view. Celtics still have Jason Tatum, one of the probably 5 best players in the NBA currently. Jaylen Brown will still be on the roster. Malcolm Brogdon will still be on the team because that trade couldn't go through. You still have Derek White, and you add Porzingis. That'll likely be their starting 5 with Al Horford. Keep Al Horford, the veteran. But you add Porzingis, you have Al Horford, Tatum, Brown, and Derek White. And you still have Robert Williams, who will come off the bench. And Brogdon, for that matter. I like Porzingis. He had the best season of his career last year. And he played, obviously started with the Knicks, was playing well for the Knicks, in a big way, but then he was traded in a blockbuster to Dallas to pair him with Luka Doncic. Didn't work in Dallas, didn't like playing with Doncic, they didn't fit, their styles didn't mesh, and he ends up getting sent to Washington, which if you want to get sent to no man's land, you want to get sent to Siberia, you get traded to the Wizards. Because the Wizards have been just a relevant franchise for close to a decade. They won a first round back in the day, and then they lost to the Celtics 2017, 2018. That was the last time they had a run. They had John Wall, Bradley Beal, who were both paid a hell of a lot of money, and they didn't win jack squad, to quote Tommy Callahan. So, Porzingis is a smart player. He's a 4, not a 5. But this adds another scorer to the Celtics. More size when it comes to the defensive end. which I think helps because I think Al Horford had to do too much last season. Porzingis can shoot from three, so it again stretches out the team a little bit. And you only worry about injuries, but to me, he's more concentrated on being a great player and they could be motivated playing for a team that has a chance to win the Larry O'Brien trophy. And for what the Celtics gave up, I don't think you can criticize the trade, quite frankly. They get draft capital back. They get the best player in the trade. And yes, Marcus Smart is gone, but to me, Marcus Smart was leaving this offseason regardless. It was getting too much for Marcus Smart. He was with Jaylen Brown, he was with Jason Tatum, and the Boston Celtics with those three kind of had a make-believe complex where it's the big three, the core three, core four. We can't bring these tandem back again. It doesn't work. We get close, but we don't win. So we know this, so let's do something about it. Marcus Smart thinks he's as good as those players. He is not. He'll now go to the Memphis Grizzlies, where he'll have a bigger workload to start the season because Ja Morant's suspended for 25 games. So he'll be there. He's a smart player. He's a leader. He doesn't take bullshit. I think that's going to be good for Ja Morant. Dylan Brooks is departing. You still have Desmond Bane. You got Jaren Jackson Jr. Luke Kennard's a shooter. Brandon Clark will be back healthy. Young Zaire Williams, who can do a lot of different things. Steven Adams, of course, at center. I think the Grizzlies still need to do more. But Marcus Smart as a good two-guard is a good addition. So at their best, I assume they'll go Ja Morant, obviously point guard, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Steven Adams. That's a pretty good starting five. That's a good starting five with two of the best defenders in the NBA, with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Marcus Smart, who won Defensive Player of the Year last year. So the Grizzlies get better defensively. They get a little more mature. They get a player that's been in a lot of playoff games. That's a win for Memphis. Marcus Smart's not a bad player. I just think he was running thin in Boston, and there needed to be a shakeout. There needed to be something. Celtics didn't have to do crazy things. Now, the Wizards also get Tyus Jones, who I like a lot. I wish the Celtics, the only thing, I would have given up that draft capital to get Tyus Jones. Because Tyus Jones would have been perfect for this team, and I'm talking about bringing the ball up the floor. As a floor general, as a guy that can distribute the offense, he is a pure point guard. He thinks about assisting the ball, setting up the offense first, and if an opportunity to score becomes available, he'll take it, but only after he sees what's available to him. I don't know what the Wizards are going to do with Tyus Jones, but I think he has a lot of value around the league. I think the Wizards are going to get calls on him because I think teams that view themselves as a team that can win look at him as a guy that can come off the bench or play extended minutes in big moments because of just his ability to start an offense. And he's a really high IQ basketball player. The Celtics could really use him. He's the modern, less talented, of course, Chris Paul. Because he focuses, he's Steve Nash. He goes, I'll score if I have to, but I'm assisting the ball first. And I'm setting up the offense. In every possession, I want the result to be us getting off the best shot. It doesn't mean it's always going to go in, but if we can give off the most high percentage shot every time down the floor, more often than not, we're going to make the shot, and more often than not, we'll win the game because we're playing smarter than the opposition. Now, maybe Chris Paul looked at the situation and goes, the Celtics have Porzingis, they got Tatum, they got Brown, they got Derek White, they got Big Al, Brogdon off the bench, Robert Williams. This team, Peyton Pritchard, this team still wants to win. This team is in a position to win. They want to win right now. Tatum and Brown are in their primes. I still think they're missing a ball handler. The Celtics are the prohibitive favorite to win the NBA title today on FanDuel. I can't put them above the Denver Nuggets because I don't see anybody on this Celtics roster that can distribute the basketball as good as Jokic or Jamal Murray do. The Denver Nuggets have two guys. Boston doesn't have any. Because Jason Tatum is a top 5 player, but he is not a top 5 distributor. He's not a top 5 ball handler. He's not LeBron, where he can put up 40 a night and get 10 assists regularly. That's just not his game. Doesn't mean he's not a good player. It's just not the style of basketball that he should be asked to play. Boston still has a ton, the whole summer to figure this out, to figure out a way. What did the Wizards want to do with Chris Paul? Are they going to cut him? Chris Mannix, who works for Sports Illustrated, who is a good reporter, is saying they may keep him into the regular season and see if they get anything for him at the trade deadline period in February. I don't think Chris Paul is going to be real happy with that, having to play for the Wizards for 4 or 5 months. But again, he doesn't have a no trade, doesn't have any of that. He might not have a choice. Might have to stay in Washington and play with a bad team and then see what teams want his services later on. I buyer beware with that, because who knows, Chris Paul might be injured 3 times by the time you want to trade him, and then all your value, all the leverage you have is gone. But as we've seen with these deals, I don't think the Wizards have done well at all in these trades. They haven't gotten a first-round pick. They haven't gotten a first-round pick in trading Bradley Beal or Kristaps Porzingis. These are your assets. Kelly Oubre Jr. opted out. He might come back, he might not. If he doesn't, you don't have anything that of great tangible value. The best 2 items you have, you sold for a nothing price. You sold for nothing. When you got 2 Ferraris, you don't sell it for half price. So now you look, Porzingis is gone, Beal is gone, Corey Kispert, Monte Morris, Kendrick Nunn, Kuzma opted out, DeLon Wright, Gafford. You got nothing of tangible value that teams want. You don't have anything to deal now to get your team any better, and you don't have any first-round picks than the ones you own. You look at Oklahoma City, you look at the Utah Jazz, they might have stunk for forever, but they have prospects, they have draft picks that they can either draft prospects or use those picks to trade for current NBA players that are good players. Washington doesn't have that. So I think they've handled this horribly. I'm all for teams tanking, but get draft picks. Get the future of your franchise in the deals when you're selling off the piece that your good pieces that you currently have. They have not done that. They gave the Celtics Kristaps Porzingis for practically nothing. Tyus Jones is a good player, okay? You get him back in the deal. Is he going to play for your team the whole year? Danilo Gallinari, I assume you buy him out? I don't know. Still good. He's coming off a torn ACL, but we know what he is with the league. He's been in the league a long time, and he's a good player. But just giving pieces away and not getting anything in return, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But this is the Washington Wizards. This is why they've been a shit organization for a long damn time. My grades, I give the Celtics an A because they give up nothing, and they give up Marcus Smart. Okay, like I said, they're giving him up regardless to somebody. So that's a win. Memphis, Marcus Smart, I think fits in well at the team. It's a good addition. B+. Washington, D. Because you get nothing but continued stupidity. The NBA draft is this evening. Big Vic, Victor Wembanyama, 7'4" center, will be going number 1. The other scuttlebutt Charlotte Hornets, this is from Sham Sharani of The Athletic. The Charlotte Hornets, who hold the second pick in the draft, are torn between taking Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, but Henderson is gaining serious momentum. ESPN's Brian Windhorst said early Thursday that the Portland Trailblazers are also showing interest in taking Henderson for their backcourt. So it looks like Portland will take Scoot with the third pick if he's there, but that's if he's there. Maybe he won't be. He could possibly be gone. Other news, Chris Middleton declined his $40 million player option with the Bucks. Three-time All-Star forward will become a free agent. A return to the Bucks remains a possibility. He's doing this not because he doesn't want $40 million. I think he wants more years on that contract. He's had a lot of injuries. I think he wants financial security for a number of years. 1 year is a risky proposition for him. So that makes sense. That does make sense for Chris Middleton to do that. But turning down $40 million, it's got to be a tough thing to do. But the draft is tonight. The Raptors have the 13th pick. You got these Anthony Black's a fun pick. You had Derek Lively the second, who I like a lot. There's these Thompson twins who are gaining a lot of momentum. Two twin brothers could be going in the top 10 of the NBA draft, which is fun to think about. Maybe there's some movement in the draft this evening. So we'll see, but that is this evening. Should be fun, the NBA draft. Some baseball news. The Minnesota Twins signed 2015 Cy Young winner and two-time All-Star Dallas Keuchel to a minor league contract on Thursday. Keuchel, 35, started 14 games for three teams in 2022, Chicago White Sox, Arizona White Sox, Texas Rangers. He went 2-9 with a 9.20 ERA. Pardon me. Keuchel used to be a great pitcher. Used to be a really good pitcher, and just it fell off the rails for him last year. He's getting kind of a comeback here with the Twins. Twins are in an interesting position because they are the best team in the American League Central, but being the best team in the American League Central is not saying much. They are currently a game under 500. They're playing, as we speak, against the Boston Red Sox. They hold a 4-0 lead. But that division is just so weak. The Cleveland Guardians trail them by 1 game in the division. The Detroit Tigers are 4 games back. So they have some. They're in a position where I think they believe. I mean, all you got to do is win the division. You go to the postseason. That's just the way the sport works. So we'll see what happens there. But that's what's happening. Dallas Keuchel is heading down to AAA. This afternoon, the Arizona Diamondbacks currently lead the Washington Nationals. How about those D-backs? 15 games above 500 on June 22nd. I didn't have that. I'll tell you. I thought they'd be a horrible team. They are 2.5 games up on the San Francisco Giants, 3.5 games up on the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, it's something else. They're a fun group to watch play. Rookie Corbin Carroll is batting .300. He got 16 homers. Christian Walker is a good player. Zach Gallen is second in Major League Baseball with 9 wins on the season. He's got a sub-3 ERA. He's looked dominant this year. So they're fun. I didn't have San Francisco being 10 games over at this point either. And the fact that the San Diego Padres are 9.5 games back of the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're 4 games under 500. Woof. They are in panic mode in San Diego. They got the Giants this afternoon. Talk about needing a win. They need one desperately. Cincinnati Reds have won 12 in a row. How about Olinda De La Cruz? Youngster called up. He's rocking the major leagues so far. Joey Votto's back. That team's having fun. He's batting .321 since his call-up. Friedel is a leadoff hitter center field. He's batting .320. They're a fun team to watch, fun team to track. They lead the National League Central. 1.5 game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers. 3.5 on the Cubbies, 5 on the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Blue Jays have won 2 in a row. I don't think it's a turnaround yet. It's way too soon. But I think the Blue Jays have something that is valuable later in the season that may not be totally evident right now. The Toronto Blue Jays have a back end of a bullpen that is very, very good. To go Swanson, Meza, Romano, not many teams have their 7, 8, 9 set up that they're totally comfortable with. And I believe the Blue Jays do. They traded for Swanson for Teoscar Hernandez. They do not regret that trade because the Mariners are having a bad season. Teoscar Hernandez is not exactly playing great baseball. And Eric Swanson has been really, really good. Seattle is 4th, and there's a lot of teams having disappointing seasons. If you look at 4th in each division, Seattle, 10 games back at Texas, 2 games under 500, they're disappointed. White Sox, 4th in their division. Jays, 4th in their division. Disappointing for them at this spot currently. The New York Mets are 4th in their division. They are 13.5 back of the Bravos. Pirates, not so much. St. Louis are in 5th. That is disappointing. And the Padres. So all these 4th place teams in the respective divisions are having piss poor seasons. The Blue Jays are in a tough division, no doubt about it. But they got a great back end of their bullpen. And that's something they can rely on. And I truly believe that where they can go 7, 8, 9 on any given day to close out a game. Yesterday they went Swanson, Richards, Romano. That's fine. Because they pitch Meza a couple days in a row and he's a lefty, you want to change it up. But I think you like that. You go Gausman to Swanson, 6, 7, 8, 9, you got it. You got your team, you have your people set up, and there's more value in that than people realize. Not many teams have it. The Yankees don't, I'll tell you. Somehow they're ahead of the Blue Jays, probably because they're playing the Mariners. But you look at the Yankees. Cordero, Peralta, King, Canely. They got to just throw guys together, hoping to get outs. With no Aaron Judge in their lineup, the team is completely without a face. They got nobody that excites you. To me, the Blue Jays have a bullpen, a back end of their bullpen that you can rely on, and that's something to be excited about, something that can help you win down the stretch. Now, do you want Vladdy to start hitting home runs? Yes. Because he's not right now. He said he doesn't have any power in his game. But you look around the league, they just played the Marlins. The Marlins don't hit a lot of home runs. They're 9 games above 500. They're having a good season. The Yankees only hit home runs. They're not a great team. The Diamondbacks aren't completely reliant on the home run ball. The Braves can do it any way you want. They'll beat you any way you want to play the game. Acuna can hit a double, then steal third. Riley can hit a dinger. Ozuna, Matt Olson. You go through that lineup. Plus, they got some great pitchers, which doesn't hurt them. The Dodgers, they can play, yes, they're 3rd in their division currently, but they can play any way you want. So the home run ball is not everything. And I think the power will come. The Blue Jays do have a good team, and their pitching staff, when healthy, is elite. And you look at what's going to happen here. So this is the upcoming schedule for the Blue Jays. The next month, I looked this up. It's easy. They got the Athletics for 3. One of the worst teams in baseball. That should be a sweep. Should be. Then they get the San Francisco Giants. A little more tougher than you would have thought at the beginning of the season, but the Blue Jays are still a better team on paper. So you got 3 with the Giants. Then you got the Red Sox. Worst team in your division. Okay, yeah, they're somewhat tougher than we thought they were. Okay, they're still the worst team in division. Handle your business. So 3 with the Red Sox. Then you go to the Chicago White Sox. God-awful team. No hope right now. Go deal with them. Another team not making the playoffs. Then you go to Detroit for 3. Detroit stink, not a playoff team. All-Star break. After the All-Star break, you got the Diamondbacks. Tough team. Yes, no doubt about it. That's a tough opponent. But I'm going through these teams, not exactly murderer's row here. Then you got the Padres. Give me a break for 3. This is to July 21st. This is almost a month. And then we get to them playing the Mariners, not a playoff team, to the July 24th date. Then they go to play the Dodgers. But that's a month. Those are the series from this weekend till July 24th. That's a month from now. Almost to the day. If you can't handle your business against those teams, if you can't gain ground in the division, if you can't get in with the Orioles, with playing against that crop of teams, then you were never meant to be there. Then you were never a good team to begin with, because that isn't a tough schedule. Those aren't tough opponents. You're not playing great pitching staffs. You take advantage of parts of your schedule. They had a tougher start when it comes to the schedule to start the season. Well, now you get your easier set. NBA draft is tonight. We got Winnipeg and BC in the CFL tonight. Two of the best teams in the CFL go at it this evening. That'll be fun. Some baseball this evening. We'll be back tomorrow. Going to get into some news out of the Calgary Flames that was just brought up, and I saved that for the show tomorrow. Regarding a few players that may not return. We're telling the team that they will not sign extensions, which is interesting because that happened to the Flames last offseason, and they get a new general manager and not much is changing. We'll react to the NBA draft, NHL storylines. We will preview UFC Jacksonville tomorrow on the program, headlined by Josh Emmett and Ilya Topuria in the featherweight division. There's also some fun fights. Jillian Robertson of Canada against Tabitha Ritchie, the Baby Shark, also on that card. So lots to dive into UFC-wise tomorrow as we head into a big weekend. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the beautiful weather, boys and girls. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks, as always, for the support. This is To The Point.